The lights came on in places that had been dark for 200 years. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, under mountains and oceans, military installations that nobody talked about suddenly roared to life. Engineers rushed to their stations. Soldiers put on uniforms that had been waiting in sealed lockers. Weapons systems that were officially denied began their startup sequences. In a facility buried 3 kilometers under the Rocky Mountains, Nari stood before a wall of screens. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, chief strategist of Earth Defense Forces. Most people did not know her name. Most people did not know her job existed. That was exactly how she liked it. She had spent 15 years preparing for this day, planning, calculating, running simulations of every possible war scenario. She knew the Vaxan Empire's military structure better than most Vaxan commanders. She knew their ship designs, their tactics, their weaknesses. She had files on 73 alien civilizations, battle plans for conflicts that would hopefully never happen. Until now. Status report, Nari said calmly. Her fingers moved across her control panel, pulling up data from across the solar system. Reaper Corps is mobilizing, her assistant replied. All 20 battalions responding. Equipment status green across the board. First strike teams ready for deployment in 6 hours. Good, and the shipyards? Hidden yards in the Kuiper Belt are releasing ships now. The fleet you designed is launching. 300 vessels, all equipped with the special packages. Nari allowed herself a small smile. The special packages, weapons that humanity had developed in secret. Weapons that violated 17 different galactic treaties. Weapons that Earth had promised never to build. They lied. They built them anyway. They just hid them very, very well. Across the solar system on Europa, in a research station disguised as a water mining facility, Taeyang watched his life's work come online. He was a weapons developer, a genius who could look at any technology and figure out how to weaponize it. The galactic community thought humans were peaceful. Taeyang made sure they could afford to be peaceful, because if anyone threatened Earth, he had ways to make them very, very sorry. His team had developed the plasma lance, a weapon that could cut through ship armor like paper. They created the swarm missiles, tiny drones that attacked in clouds of thousands, overwhelming defensive systems. They built the Scorchers, bombs that did not just destroy targets but turned entire areas into radioactive wastelands for centuries. Everything that could make war more terrible they had invented. Everything that could make enemies afraid they had perfected. Dr. Taeyang, his assistant, called out, "We have deployment authorization. Which systems do you want to send first?" Taeyang looked at the list of weapons on his screen. He thought about the footage from Kepler 442b, the children running, the buildings falling, Hana's last transmission. His jaw tightened. "All of them," he said quietly. "Send everything we have. I want those ships armed with every horror we can fit inside them." On Mars, Commander Minho assembled his officers in the briefing room. The Reaper Corps, Earth's best soldiers, men and women who had trained in secret, preparing for a war that diplomats insisted would never come. Each one of them was a volunteer. Each one had passed tests that broke ordinary people. Each one knew exactly what they were getting into. "Listen up," Minho said. His voice was hard, cold. "You have all seen the footage from Kepler 442b. 50,000 civilians dead, murdered without warning, without mercy, without reason. The Vaxan Empire thinks humanity is soft. They think we will complain to the Galactic Council. File protests. Ask for investigations. They are wrong." He pulled up a star map on the main screen. Red markers showed Vaxan military installations, forward bases, supply depots, shipyards, command centers. "We have locations for every major Vaxan facility within 50 light years of Earth. Intelligence confirms their main fleet is dispersed. They are not expecting retaliation. They think we are afraid of them." Minho looked at his soldiers. He saw anger in their eyes, determination. These were people who had families on those colonies, friends, loved ones. People who understood that sometimes peace only came through strength. "The Galactic Council will demand we show restraint. They will beg us to negotiate. They will remind us of treaties and laws and civilized behavior. We are going to ignore them. For 50,000 dead humans, we are going to make the Vaxan understand exactly what they unleashed." Meanwhile, in the Vaxan border systems, Intelligence Officer Yuna moved through shadows. She was a spy, One of Earth's best, she had spent 3 years undercover in Vaxxan territory, learning their language, their culture, building contacts, creating identities, waiting for the day when Earth would need information. That day had come. Yuna sat in a small apartment on a Vaxxan colony world. Her computers hummed quietly as they intercepted military communications. She watched troop movements, ship deployments, supply lines. Every piece of data got sent back to Earth through hidden quantum relays. The Vaxxan had no idea she was there. No idea that every plan they made was already known to their enemy. She pulled up the latest intelligence report. The Vaxxan High Command was celebrating. They thought the attack on Kepler 442b was a great success, a show of strength, a message to humanity about who really held power in this region of space. They were planning more attacks, testing human defenses, seeing how far they could push before Earth pushed back. Yuna sent the information to Nari's command center. She added her own analysis. The Vaxxan were overconfident, spread thin, vulnerable. They expected threats from their traditional enemies, not from humans they considered weak. It was the perfect time to strike, the perfect time to show them how wrong they were. Back on Earth, the Galactic Council emergency meeting was already underway. Representatives from 30 different alien civilizations filled the chamber. They had seen the footage from Kepler 442b. They demanded explanations. They called for investigations. They reminded everyone of the treaties that prohibited violence against civilian populations. The Vaxxan ambassador stood tall at his podium. He expressed regret about the loss of life. He claimed it was a defensive action against suspected military installations. He suggested humans had been building weapons in violation of galactic law. He requested patience while the Vaxxan Empire conducted an internal review. Earth's ambassador listened to every word. Then she stood up. Her name was Ambassador Sora. She was young for a diplomat, but she had been chosen specifically for this moment. Chosen because she was not like the old diplomats. She did not believe in endless negotiations. She believed in actions having consequences. The Vaxxan ambassador speaks of investigations and reviews, Sora said. Her voice was calm, too calm. He speaks as if this was an accident, a misunderstanding. I would like to show the council what actually happened. She played the full recording from Kepler 442b, not edited, not shortened. Every horrible second, the council members watched in growing horror. They saw children dying, families burning, Hana's final transmission. When it ended, silence filled the chamber. That is murder, Sora said quietly. Not defense, not military action, murder. And humanity will respond accordingly. We are withdrawing from all treaties with the Vaxxan Empire. We are recalling our ambassadors. We are mobilizing our military forces. This council can discuss investigations and reviews all they want. We are going to discuss justice. The other ambassadors erupted in protests. They demanded humanity show restraint. They warned about escalation. They reminded Earth of the rules of civilized society. Sora listened to it all. Then she said the words that changed everything. Humanity tried being civilized. We tried following your rules. We tried peace. And 50,000 of our people died for it. So now we stop being civilized. Now we show you what humans really are when you push us too far. She walked out of the council chamber. Behind her, across the solar system, the war machine that humanity had built in secret began to move. Ships launched. Soldiers deployed. Weapons armed. The Vaxxan thought they were testing human resolve. They were about to learn the difference between humans at peace and humans at war, and it was a lesson they would never forget. The morning started like any other morning on Kepler 442b. The sun rose over the red mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Children walked to school. Workers headed to the mining stations. Farmers checked their crops in the greenhouses. Life was good in the colony, peaceful, safe. Hana sat at her desk in the communications center. She sipped her coffee and watched the screens. Everything looked normal. The colony had 50,000 people now. Families from Earth who wanted a fresh start, a new beginning far from the crowded cities back home. They built homes here, schools, parks. They were building a future. The warning came at 08:47 local time. Hana saw the blips on her screen first. Ships, lots of them. Dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Her hands moved fast across the keyboard. She opened the long-range scanners. Her heart dropped. 12 warships. Vaxxon design. Heavy cruisers battle ready. This is colony control to approaching vessels. Hana spoke into her microphone. Her voice stayed calm even though fear gripped her chest. You are entering protected human space. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions. Silence. The ships kept coming. Getting closer. Moving in formation like hungry wolves. Hana sent an emergency signal to Earth. It would take 20 minutes for the message to reach home. 20 minutes for anyone to know they were in danger. She hoped it would not matter. Maybe the Vaxxon just wanted to talk. Maybe this was a misunderstanding. The first missile hit the orbital defense platform at 0852. The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. Hana watched in horror as debris rained down from space. Burning metal. Twisted steel. The pieces of their only real defense. The colony alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. People ran through the streets. Parents grabbed their children. Workers abandoned their posts. Everyone tried to reach the emergency shelters deep underground. But there were too many people. Not enough time. Not enough space. Hana kept transmitting. This is Kepler 442b colony.
We are under attack!
Vaxxon warships are firing on civilian targets. We need immediate assistance. We are a peaceful settlement. We have no military forces. Please, someone help us. The second wave of missiles struck the residential district. Buildings exploded. Fire swept through the streets. Hana could hear the screams even through the thick walls of the communications center. She kept working, kept transmitting, kept recording everything. Someone needed to know what happened here. On Mars, millions of kilometers away, Commander Minho stood in the military command center. He was a tall man with tired eyes and short black hair going gray at the temples. He commanded the Third Fleet, Earth's defensive force stationed between Mars and Jupiter. His job was to watch for threats, to keep the colonies safe. He was good at his job, but nothing had prepared him for this. The message from Kepler 442b came through on the emergency channel. Minho watched the video feed with growing horror. He saw the missiles falling, the buildings burning, the people running, dying. His hands gripped the edge of his desk so hard his knuckles turned white. "Get me Earth Command," he said. His voice was quiet, too quiet. The officers around him recognized that tone. Commander Minho only got quiet when he was truly angry. "Get me Admiral Jiwan now." Back on Kepler 442b, Hana worked frantically at her station. The building shook with each explosion. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cracks spread across the walls. She knew she was going to die. Everyone here was going to die. But she could make it matter. She could make sure Earth knew the truth. She activated every camera in the colony, every sensor, every recording device. She uplinked everything to Earth through the emergency quantum channel. Video, audio, sensor data, everything. The Vaxxon would destroy the colony, but they could not destroy the truth already racing toward Earth at the speed of light. At 0915, the Vaxxon ships entered low orbit. They did not land troops. They did not demand surrender. They just fired. Orbital bombardment cannons lit up the sky. Each shot hit the ground like the fist of an angry god. The mining district vanished in a cloud of fire and debris. The agricultural sector turned to ash. The schools, the homes, the parks where children played. All gone. Hana's last transmission came at 0923. Her voice was steady even though her hands shook. Even though blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. Even though the building was falling apart around her. "This is Communications Officer Hana, Kepler 442b colony. Final transmission. They showed no mercy. They gave no warning. They killed civilians, children, families. We did nothing to deserve this. We were peaceful. We were kind. We welcomed everyone. And they murdered us for it. Tell Earth, tell everyone. We died as humans. We died with hope that someone will make this right. End transmission." The communications center exploded 2 seconds later. The antenna array collapsed. The quantum uplink went dark. Silence fell over Kepler 442b. The kind of silence that only comes after death. On Earth, in the underground bunker that housed the High Council, 50 men and women sat in a circular chamber. They watched the footage from Kepler 442b. Every second of it, every scream, every explosion, every death. When Hana's final transmission ended, nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They just stared at the blank screen. Admiral Jiwan stood up slowly. She was an old woman now with white hair and a face marked by decades of service. She had fought in the colony wars. She had seen combat, death, loss, but nothing like this. This was not war. This was murder. This was a message. The Vaxen were telling humanity that they were nothing, that human lives meant nothing. "Activate Protocol Crimson," Admiral Jiwan said. Her voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Mobilize the Reaper Corps. Authorize full military deployment. No restrictions, no limits, no mercy." The council members looked at each other. They knew what Protocol Crimson meant. It meant humanity stopped pretending to be civilized. It meant they unleashed every weapon they had spent 200 years hiding from the galaxy. It meant war. Totalva. The kind of war that ended civilizations. One by one, the council members pressed their authorization buttons. 50 lights turned green on the main display. It was unanimous. The decision was made. The Vaxen wanted to test humanity's resolve. They wanted to see if humans would fight back. They were about to get their answer. Commander Minho received the authorization codes 30 seconds later. He looked at his officers. Young men and women who had trained their whole lives for a war they hoped would never come. Now it was here. Now it was real. "Send the message to all ships," he said quietly. "As of this moment, we are no longer peacekeepers. We are no longer diplomats. We are soldiers, and we have work to do." The Vaxen forward base at Rigel 7 had stood for 30 years. A military outpost on the edge of their territory. 3,000 soldiers, 22 warships, defensive platforms that could detect threats from light years away. It was supposed to be impregnable. The commanders there felt safe, confident. They had crushed the human colony without a single casualty. They expected medals, promotions, recognition for their strength. At 03 Barrylarn station time, the base sensors registered something strange. Ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Lots of them. Coming in fast. Too fast for merchants. Too organized for pirates. The alarm systems activated. Soldiers rushed to battle stations. Commanders demanded identification from the incoming vessels. The response came in clear human language. "This is Commander Minho of the Earth Reaper Corps. You attacked Kepler 442b. You murdered 50,000 civilians. We are here to collect the debt you owe. Payment in blood." The Vaxen base commander laughed. Humans, peaceful, weak humans, coming to fight. He had 80 ships in range. More on the way. These humans were making a mistake. A fatal one. He gave the order to open fire. The first volley of Vaxen missiles streaked toward the human ships. Standard plasma torpedoes, effective against most targets. The humans should have scattered, retreated, tried to escape. Instead, they kept coming. And then the missiles just stopped. Mid-flight. They froze in space as if hitting an invisible wall. Then they exploded harmlessly, still thousands of kilometers from their targets. The human ships opened fire, and the Vaxen learned what terror really meant. Taeyang's plasma lances tore through the defensive platforms like they were made of paper. Each shot carved glowing lines of destruction through metal and circuits. Platforms that had withstood decades of use simply fell apart. The pieces tumbled into the planet's atmosphere, burning up in bright streaks of fire. Then came the swarm missiles. Thousands of tiny drones, each one smart enough to pick its own target. They moved like a school of metal fish flowing around defensive fire, adapting to countermeasures. The Vaxen ships tried to shoot them down, but there were too many. For every one destroyed, 10 more got through. They attached to ship hulls and exploded in sequence, ripping open armor, venting atmosphere, destroying engines. Commander Minho watched from his command ship. His face was stone, cold, unmoved by the destruction playing out on his screens. His tactical officer called out damage reports on enemy vessels. Minho just nodded. This was not victory. This was not even justice. This was just the beginning of payment for what the Vaxen had done. "Sir, the base is requesting surrender," his communications officer reported. "They are asking for mercy. They want to negotiate." Minho thought about Hana, about her final transmission, about how she had begged for help that never came, about children who died without understanding why. He thought about mercy, about what it meant, about whether people who showed no mercy deserved any in return. "Denied," Minho said quietly. "Continue the attack. No survivors." The battle lasted 18 minutes. When it ended, the Vaxen base was gone, destroyed completely, ships reduced to debris, platforms shattered, buildings collapsed. The Reaper Corps did not take prisoners, did not accept surrender. They came to send a message, and the message was written in fire and blood. News of the attack reached Vaxxan High Command within the hour. The commanders there could not believe the reports. Humans did this? Peaceful diplomatic humans? It had to be a mistake. An exaggeration. They pulled up the sensor logs from nearby systems. The evidence was undeniable. The base was gone. Every ship destroyed. Every soldier dead. The humans had struck with overwhelming force and absolute precision. But Rigel 7 was just the first target. Across Vaxxan space, the attacks continued. The Reaper Corps hit 12 installations in a single day. Supply depots exploded. Shipyards burned. Communication arrays went dark. Every target chosen carefully by Nari's planning team. Every strike executed perfectly by Minho's soldiers. Every attack designed to cause maximum damage with minimum risk. At the Vaxxan military headquarters on their homeworld, panic spread through the command structure. They had never faced an enemy like this. The humans fought with a cold efficiency that terrified even experienced officers. No hesitation, no mercy, no fear, just relentless, calculated destruction. The Vaxxan tried to respond. They sent fleets to intercept the human ships, but Yuna's intelligence reports gave Earth perfect information about every Vaxxan movement. The humans always knew where the fleets were going. They struck where defenses were weakest. They avoided direct engagement with superior forces. They fought like ghosts, appearing suddenly to destroy targets and then vanishing before reinforcements arrived. In one engagement, a Vaxxan admiral managed to trap a human strike force. 60 Vaxxan ships surrounded 20 human vessels. The admiral demanded surrender. He promised to treat prisoners well, follow all the rules of civilized warfare. He genuinely believed the humans would give up. The human response came from Captain Dabin, a young officer who had lost her entire family on Kepler 442b. You want civilized warfare? You should have thought about that before you murdered children. Now you get human warfare. Now you get to learn what we are really capable of. The human ships activated Taiyang's newest weapon, the Scorchers, missiles that did not just explode. They burned. The warheads contained a substance that reacted with ship hulls, creating a chemical fire that could not be extinguished. It burned through metal, through life support systems, through everything. The Vaxxan ships tried to escape, but the fire spread too fast. One by one, the vessels turned into floating coffins, their crews dying in agony as the fire consumed everything. The human ships left the burning wrecks behind. They did not stay to watch, did not gloat over victory. They just moved on to the next target, professional, efficient, deadly. The war was not about revenge. Revenge was emotional, messy. This was about sending a clear message to every civilization in the galaxy. You could trade with humans. You could negotiate with humans. You could even compete with humans. But if you attacked human civilians, if you murdered human children, then you faced something that transcended normal warfare. You faced extinction. Back on Earth, Nari tracked the progress of every battle. Her screens showed dozens of operations happening simultaneously. The Reaper Corps was performing beyond even her optimistic projections. Vaxxan losses mounted by the hour. Already they had lost more ships and soldiers than in their last 3 wars combined. And the human assault showed no signs of stopping. Her assistant approached carefully. "Ma'am, we are receiving communications from the Galactic Council. They are demanding we cease hostilities immediately. They are threatening sanctions, trade embargoes, military intervention." Nari did not look away from her screens. "Tell them we will cease hostilities when the debt is paid. 50,000 civilians died on Kepler 442b. We have eliminated approximately 12,000 Vaxxan military personnel. We still owe them 38,000 deaths. When the math balances, we will talk about peace." The assistant hesitated. "Ma'am, that is not how civilized societies conduct war." Nari finally looked up. Her eyes were cold, hard. "We are not a civilized society anymore. We tried that. It got our people killed. Now we are something else. Something the Vaxxan understand much better. We are predators, and they are prey. Make sure the Council understands that. Make sure everyone understands that. Humanity is done apologizing for being good at war." The attacks continued, day after day, night after night. The Vaxxan had started this war thinking humans were weak, easy targets. They were learning the truth the hard way. Humans were not weak. They had just been kind. And now that kindness was gone, burned away in the fires of Kepler 442b. What remained was something far more dangerous, Something that would not stop until justice was served. Cold, brutal, absolute justice. 6 months after the war began, the Vaxan Empire signed the final surrender documents. The ceremony took place on a neutral station between Earth and Vaxan space. Representatives from the Galactic Council attended as witnesses. Everyone wanted to see how humanity would handle victory, whether they would be gracious or cruel, merciful or vengeful. Commander Minho stood in his dress uniform, medals gleaming on his chest. Each one represented a battle, a victory, a successful mission. He looked older now. The war had aged him, put gray in his hair and lines on his face, but his eyes were still sharp, still watchful, still ready. Across from him, the Vaxan delegation sat with heads bowed. Their military leaders wore simple clothes. No uniforms, no weapons, no symbols of authority. They had been stripped of everything except their lives. Some species might have found that humiliating. The Vaxan were grateful. They had seen what happened to those who fought to the end. Complete destruction. They chose survival instead. Admiral Jiwan read out the terms one final time. Complete demilitarization of all Vaxan forces. War reparations paid over 50 years. Human monitoring stations in 12 key systems. War crimes trials for those who planned the attack on Kepler 442b. Educational programs teaching Vaxan children about the massacre and its consequences. And most importantly, a permanent ban on Vaxan military expansion beyond their current borders. The Vaxan representatives signed. They had no choice. But also many of them understood this was actually mercy. Earth could have destroyed them completely, turned their worlds to ash, hunted down every last Vaxan in the galaxy. Instead, humanity offered a path to redemption. Harsh terms, yes. Permanent restrictions, certainly. But life. Survival. A future. Even if a diminished one. After the ceremony, ambassadors from other civilizations approached the human delegation. They wanted to understand, to learn, to figure out where humanity had hidden such military power, such advanced weapons, such tactical brilliance, and most importantly, why they had hidden it. Ambassador Sora met with them in a private conference room. She looked tired. The past months had been difficult. Defending human actions, explaining human motivations, negotiating terms with species who could not understand why humans fought so hard for dead colonists. She was ready for this conversation. She had been preparing for it since the war began. "You want to know our secret," Sora said. It was not a question. "You want to understand how peaceful humanity suddenly became so dangerous?" The answer is simple. We were always dangerous. We just chose not to be. We chose diplomacy. We chose trade. We chose cooperation. Not because we were weak, because we believed in a better way. The Calraxian ambassador leaned forward. "But why hide your military strength? Why pretend to be vulnerable?" Sora smiled sadly, because showing strength invites challenges. If we had revealed our weapons from the beginning, someone would have wanted to test them. Someone would have started a war just to see if we could really win. By appearing peaceful, by focusing on trade and culture, we avoided unnecessary conflicts. We built relationships. We created partners instead of enemies. Until the Vaxan tested you anyway, the Terrellian ambassador observed. "Yes," Sora agreed. "And now everyone knows. The secret is out. Humanity can fight. Humanity can win. Humanity has weapons that violate every treaty we signed. We built them anyway because we understood something the rest of you forgot. Peace is only possible when everyone chooses it. When one side chooses violence, the other side must be capable of responding. Otherwise, peace is just weakness waiting to be exploited." Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The shipyards that had produced warships switched back to civilian vessels. The weapons factories closed their military production lines. The Reaper Corps stood down from active deployment. Soldiers returned home to families, to jobs, to lives they had left behind when the war began. But things were not the same, could never be the same. Earth had revealed its true nature to the galaxy. And the galaxy had responded with fear and respect. Trade agreements were renegotiated with better terms for humanity. Border disputes suddenly resolved in Earth's favor. Pirates and raiders avoided human ships. Everyone remembered what happened to the Vaxan. Nobody wanted to be next. Nari returned to her office deep under the Rocky Mountains. The command center was quieter now. Fewer staff, fewer emergencies, fewer battles to plan, but she kept working. Because she knew the truth. This war had taught the galaxy that humanity could fight. The next challenge would be teaching them that humanity knew when to stop fighting. She pulled up her long-term strategic plans. Projections for the next 50 years. How to rebuild Earth's reputation as a peaceful civilization while maintaining military readiness. How to help the Vaxxan recover without letting them become a threat again. How to establish humanity as a major power without triggering conflicts with other species. It was complicated, difficult, the kind of challenge she loved. On Europa, Taeyang shut down his weapons development programs. The plasma lances, the swarm missiles, the scorchers, all the horrible tools he had created to make war more terrible. They would be stored, maintained, kept ready, but hopefully never used again. He hoped the Vaxxan War would be the only time humanity needed such weapons. But he knew better than to assume peace would last forever. Yuna returned to Earth after her extraction from Vaxxan space. She received medals, commendations, recognition for her intelligence work that had helped win the war. But she did not feel like celebrating. She had seen too much, learned too much about how close humanity had come to enslavement, how close the galaxy had come to losing Earth as a force for good. He visited the memorial built on the ruins of Kepler 442b. 50,000 names carved in black, stone, children, parents, grandparents, workers, teachers, farmers, all the people who had died that day. The monument stood on the exact spot where the communications center had been, where Hana had sent her final transmission, the place where everything changed. Commander Minho came to the memorial too. He stood in silence, reading the names, remembering faces from the footage, the children running, the families dying, the moment when humanity's peaceful facade shattered. He had led the military response, commanded the fleets that destroyed the Vaxxan Empire, but standing here he wondered if there had been another way. A better way, a way that did not require so much death. Do you regret it? Ambassador Sora asked. She had come to the memorial for the dedication ceremony, to speak for Earth, to remember the fallen. She found Minho standing alone among the names. Minho was quiet for a long moment. I regret that it was necessary, he finally said. I regret that the Vaxxan forced our hand. I regret that 50,000 innocent people had to die before we showed the galaxy our true strength. But I do not regret our response. They murdered our people. We made them pay. That is justice, cold, brutal, absolute, but justice nonetheless. Sora nodded. She understood. Justice was not always kind, not always merciful. Sometimes it was just payment for debts owed. The Vaxxan owed 50,000 lives. Humanity collected. Now both sides could move forward, different, changed, but alive. Years passed. The Vaxxan rebuilt under human supervision. Their economy recovered. Their people learned new ways. Ways that did not involve conquest or slavery or testing other species through violence. Young Vaxxan grew up learning about the massacre, about the war, about the consequences of their empire's actions. Most of them were ashamed. Most of them wanted to do better. To be better. And across the galaxy, every civilization remembered. They told stories about the humans, about how they seemed peaceful and diplomatic, about how they built friendships and traded fairly, about how they respected treaties and followed laws, but also about what happened when someone broke those laws, when someone attacked human innocence, when someone tested human resolve. The stories always ended the same way. The humans tried being civilized. They tried following the rules. They tried peace. But when violence came to them, when their people died, when justice was denied, they stopped being civilized. They remembered what they really were: predators from a world that had tested them for millions of years, survivors from a species that had clawed its way to the top of its food chain through strength and determination and refusal to quit. The galaxy learned its lesson well. You could negotiate with humans. You could trade with humans. You could even disagree with humans. But you could never ever attack human civilians and expect to survive the response. Because humanity had shown everyone the truth. They were not peaceful because they were weak. They were peaceful because they were strong enough to choose peace. And if you took that choice away from them, if you forced them into war, then you faced something terrible, something unstoppable, something that would not rest until justice was served. The Vaxxan Empire had learned that lesson at the cost of their civilization. Nobody wanted to learn it again. 3 weeks into the war, the Earth fleets reached deep Vaxxan territory. What had started as punishing strikes on forward bases had become a full invasion. Commander Minho led the largest human military force ever assembled. 300 warships, 50,000 soldiers, enough firepower to level planets, and they were heading straight for the Vaxxan core worlds. The Vaxxan had tried everything to stop them. Ambushes, traps, desperate counterattacks. Nothing worked. Human intelligence was too good. Human weapons were too advanced. Human soldiers were too determined. For every Vaxxan ship destroyed, Earth sent 2 more. For every human casualty, the Reaper Corps fought harder. This was not a war. This was an extermination. Admiral Jiwan stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Retribution. She was old now, her hair white as snow, but her eyes burned with the same fire that had carried her through decades of service. She watched the tactical display showing Vaxxan fleet positions. They were pulling back, abandoning their colonies, concentrating forces around their homeworld, making their last stand. They are scared, her tactical officer observed. They never thought humans would push this far. Jiwan nodded slowly. They thought we would hit them a few times and then negotiate. They thought we would follow galactic law. They did not understand that laws only matter when everyone follows them. They broke the most important law. They killed our innocent. Now they face consequences. On Vaxxan Prime, the homeworld of the Vaxxan Empire, panic gripped the population. Billions of civilians watched the sky in fear. Human ships were coming. The same humans they had mocked as weak. The same humans their leaders had dismissed as irrelevant. Those humans were now outside their star system with enough weapons to end their civilization. The Vaxxan High Command held emergency meetings every hour. They argued, blamed each other. The admiral who had ordered the attack on Kepler 442b had already been executed. His subordinates faced trial. But it was too late for justice within Vaxxan society. The humans did not care about internal punishment. They wanted blood. Vaxxan blood. Lots of it. Meanwhile, in her apartment on a Vaxxan colony world, Yuna prepared for extraction. Her mission was nearly complete. She had spent weeks gathering information from inside Vaxxan space. Intercepting communications, stealing files, learning secrets. Now she had something important. Something that changed everything. She uploaded the data to Earth through her hidden quantum relay, military plans, political discussions, but also something else, something she found in classified Vaxxan archives. The attack on Kepler 442b was not random. It was planned. Carefully calculated. The Vaxxan High Command had discussed it for months. They chose that colony specifically because it was peaceful, defenseless. They wanted to test human response to aggression. They wanted to see if humanity would fight back or just complain to the Galactic Council. The files revealed more. After testing humans with the colony massacre, the Vaxxan planned to launch a full invasion of Earth space. They wanted to enslave human populations, use them as cheap labor. The attack on Kepler 442b was supposed to be the first step in conquering humanity. They thought one massacre would break human will to resist. Yuna read the documents with growing horror and rage. This was not a military mistake, not an accident, not even simple aggression. This was genocide in preparation, slavery in planning. The Vaxxan had looked at humanity and seen nothing but resources to exploit. They never considered that humans might fight back, that humans might win. She sent everything to Nari's command center, every document, every plan, every piece of evidence showing Vaxxan intentions. Then she activated her extraction beacon and waited for pickup. The Reaper Corps would get her out. They always got their people out. That was the promise. No soldier left behind. No operative abandoned. On Earth, the Galactic Council convened another emergency session. Representatives from dozens of civilizations filled the chamber. They had been meeting constantly since the war began, trying to stop it, trying to negotiate peace, trying to prevent what everyone knew was coming. The complete destruction of the Vaxxan Empire. Ambassador Sora sat in the human delegation area. She had listened to 3 weeks of speeches, 3 weeks of other species telling humans to show mercy, show restraint, show forgiveness, be civilized. She was tired of listening, tired of empty words from people who had done nothing when human civilians died. The Calraxian ambassador, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, stood at his podium. The human assault must stop, he declared. This has gone beyond reasonable retaliation. The Vaxxan have lost thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Their economy is collapsing. Surely humanity has made its point. Surely it is time for peace. Other ambassadors murmured agreement. The vaccine had suffered enough. It was time to negotiate, time to rebuild, time to move forward. Sora waited for them to finish. Then she stood up. The chamber fell silent. Everyone wanted to hear what the human representative would say. I have new information to share with the council, Sora said calmly. She pulled up the documents Yuna had sent. The plans, the discussions, the genocidal intentions. She displayed them on the main screen for everyone to see. The attack on Kepler 442b was not an isolated incident. It was a test. The vaccine planned to invade Earth, enslave humanity, use our people as labor. They discussed it openly in their high command meetings. They planned every detail. Shocked silence filled the chamber. The ambassadors read the documents, saw the plans, understood the implications. This was not a border dispute, not a misunderstanding. This was attempted genocide, attempted slavery. The vaccine had planned to destroy humanity as a free species. So when you ask humanity to show mercy, Sora continued, her voice hard as steel, understand what you are asking. You want us to spare people who planned our extinction, people who wanted to enslave our children, people who saw us as nothing but resources to exploit. Tell me, representatives of the Galactic Council, what would your species do in our position? Nobody answered. The truth was obvious. Any other species would have done exactly what humans were doing, maybe worse. The Calraxians had fought a war of extermination against their enemies 200 years ago. The Turellians had glassed 3 planets that threatened their territory. Every species in the chamber had blood on their hands, but they all maintained the polite fiction of civilization. They all pretended to follow the rules. Until now, humans had pretended too. The vaccine wanted to know what happens when you attack humanity, Sora said. Now they know. Now everyone knows. We are not weak. We are not passive. We are not easy prey. We were just being polite, being diplomatic, being civilized. And the vaccine mistook that for weakness. They paid for that mistake with their empire. She looked around the chamber, made eye contact with each ambassador. Humanity will accept vaccine surrender, but the terms are not negotiable. Complete demilitarization, war reparations for 50,000 dead civilians, monitoring stations in every vaccine system, universal trials for those who planned the attack. And most importantly, every species in this galaxy will remember what happened when someone tested human resolve. We tried being civilized. They chose violence. We responded appropriately. In orbit around Vaccine Prime, Commander Minho's fleet held position. The planet below was defenseless. Its shields down, its weapons destroyed, its fleet scattered. One order from Admiral Jiwan could end billions of lives. Turn the homeworld into a burning cinder. Finish what the vaccine had started. But that order did not come. Instead, Minho received different instructions. Accept surrender. Occupy strategic positions. Ensure compliance with Earth's terms. Show the galaxy that humans could win a war and then show mercy. Not because they were weak. Not because they were afraid. But because they chose to. Because unlike the vaccine, humans understood the difference between justice and genocide. Minho opened a channel to the vaccine government. This is Commander Minho of Earth Forces. You have 24 hours to accept our surrender terms. Refuse and we will resume operations. You have seen what humanity can do when pushed. You have seen our weapons, our determination, our willingness to fight. Now see our mercy. See that we can choose to stop, that we can choose peace. Make the right choice. Do not test us again. The vaccine government agreed to every term. They had no choice. Their military was destroyed. Their people were terrified. Their empire was broken. They had tested humanity's resolve and learned the hardest lesson possible. Humans were not weak. They were not passive. They were not easy targets. They were predators who had chosen to be civilized. And when civilization failed, when peace was rejected, when innocents were murdered, those predators remembered how to hunt, how to kill, how to win. The vaccine would spend generations trying to forget that lesson. The rest of the galaxy would spend generations trying to remember it.